including that agency's entire vaccine advisory panel, as well as its director, just 29 days into her job. Also, an attempted mass shooting at the CDC by an anti-vaxxer who killed a police officer there. None of this is typical, and none fits any precedent. Nor, for that matter, did his appearance today before the Senate Finance Committee. Now, it's not often, for example, that the ranking member starts out by openly calling the witness, a cabinet secretary no less, a liar.
It's unfortunate that I have to say this, but this is a witness who has lied to members of the Senate Finance Committee. In response to over 35 written questions, including from me, he said, and I quote, that he would do nothing as HHS secretary that makes it difficult or discourages people from taking vaccines. That was clearly not true. His unprecedented unilateral actions to restrict access to COVID vaccines, that alone proves it. He tried to fire the Senate-approved CDC director after she chose the truth. So, my request, Mr. Chairman, and I think it is unfortunate that I have to do this, but given the unprecedented nature of the witness's behavior, I would ask now that the committee formally swear in Robert Kennedy as a witness.
Senator Mike Crapo, the finance chairman, said no, and the skeptical questions from Democrats and even some Republicans began.
Do you accept the fact that 1 million Americans died from COVID?
I don't know how many died.
You're the Secretary of Health and Human Services. You don't have any idea how many Americans died from COVID?
I don't think anybody knows that because there was so much data chaos coming out of the CDC, and there was so many reverse incentives. And these are modeled.
You don't know the answer of how many Americans died from COVID. This is the Secretary of Health and Human Services. Do you think the vaccine did anything to prevent additional deaths?
Again, I would like to see the data.
Secretary of Health and Human Services doesn't no matter how many Americans died from COVID. Doesn't know if the vaccine helped prevent any deaths. And you are sitting as Secretary of Health and Human Services. How can you be that ignorant?
Georgia Senator Raphael Warnock, who joins us shortly, pointed out that the secretary had never been to the CDC before the shooting there and had not been briefed by scientists there about vaccines. Minnesota Democrat Tina Smith grilled him about what she sees as inconsistent statements about vaccines.
When were you lying, sir? When you told this committee that you were not anti-vax, or when you told Americans that there's no safe and effective vaccine?
Both things are true.
Well, Senator Bernie Sanders, who's called for the secretary to resign, had sharp words for Mr. Kennedy on Medicaid cuts. And Republican Senator and orthopedic surgeon John Barrasso said this.
Secretary Kennedy, in your confirmation hearings, you promised to uphold the highest standards for vaccines. Since then, I've grown deeply concerned. The public has seen measles outbreaks, leadership of the National Institute of Health questioning the use of mRNA vaccines, the recently confirmed director of Centers for Disease Control and Prevention fired. Americans don't know who to rely on.
Another Republican doctor, Louisiana's Bill Cassidy, also showed both skepticism of Secretary Kennedy's record on vaccines and devised an interesting way to couch it in praise for the president.
Mr. Secretary, do you agree with me that the president deserves a Nobel Prize for Operation Warp Speed?
Absolutely, Senator.
You also said that you were also, as lead attorney for the Children's Health Defense, you engaged in multiple lawsuits attempting to restrict access to the COVID vaccine. Again, it surprises me that you think so highly of Operation Warp Speed when, as an attorney, you attempted to restrict access.
Well, the secretary started by also praising the president, but when he launched into a long digression on ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine, President Biden, and vaccine mandates, among other subjects, Dr. Cassidy stopped him and added this.
This is from Eric Erickson, good conservative out of Atlanta, Georgia. Occasionally gives me help. My wife has stage 4 lung cancer. She is one of the people the COVID vaccine actually helps. Thanks to the current mess at HHS, CVS is unable to get her vaccine. Secondly, an email from a physician friend of mine. Hey, Bill, I'm not even sure what I'm asking, but we're all confused and concerned about who can get the COVID vaccine. We are having our attorney try and render an opinion, but there's no firm guidance and concern about liability if vaccines are given to a patient who requests it, but not on the current CDC list. Pharmacists are requiring a prescription now even for patients over 65, creating a huge headache. I submit these for the record.
Without objection.
I would say effectively we're denying people vaccine.
Senator Cantwell.
I ain't wrong.
Secretary Kennedy was also asked about the recent firing of CDC Director Susan Menarez after she refused his demand she resign. Here's how he explained why she had to go.
I told her that she had to resign because I asked her, are you a trustworthy person? And she said no.
Which seems like a strange answer for her or anyone to give. Her attorneys, in a statement, called Kennedy's claims about her today as, quote, false and at times patently ridiculous. As for Ms. Menarez, she said this in an op-ed for the Wall Street Journal, quote, public health shouldn't be partisan. Vaccines have saved millions of lives under administrations of both parties. Parents deserve a CDC they can trust to put children above politics, evidence above ideology, and facts above fear. I was fired for holding that line. And just moments ago, at a White House dinner for tech CEOs, the president had this to say about RFK Jr.
Didn't get to watch the hearings today, but he's a very good person. And he means very well, and he's got some little different ideas. I guarantee a lot of the people at this table like RFK Jr., and I do. But he's got a different take, and we want to listen to all of those takes. But I heard he did very well today. But it's not your standard. It's not your standard talk, I would say, and that has to do with medical and vaccines. But if you look at what's going on in the world with health, and look at this country also with regard to health, I like the fact that he's different.
I want to bring in Georgia Democratic Senator Raphael Warnock, who was among the lawmakers confronting Secretary Kennedy on the Hill today. He closed out his time with this.
Secretary Kennedy, for the first time, we're seeing deaths from children from measles. We haven't seen that in 2 decades. We're seeing that under your watch. You are a hazard to the health of the American people.
Can I respond?
No, I claim back my time.
We need to wrap.
You are a hazard to the health of the American people. I think that you ought to resign. And if you don't resign, the President of the United States, who put forward Operation Warp Speed, which worked, should fire you.
And Senator Raphael Warnock joins me now. We just played a little of what President Trump just said this evening about Secretary Kennedy. It doesn't sound like he has lost the president's support.
Good evening. Good to be with you tonight. Listen, we are in a tragically ironic moment in which the biggest threat to the health of the American people is the Secretary of Health and Human Services. And I can think of no obligation more sacred for an American president than making sure that the people of this country are safe. Robert Kennedy is a hazard to our health, and he needs to be fired. It couldn't happen sooner.
But are you surprised by any of the things he has done and said? I mean, it seems like he had made his record pretty clear early on. It seems like it's what got him in this position in the first place, at least for the president.
Oh, I was deeply worried about this appointment. And while I was glad to see some of my Republican friends join us in this effort and beginning at least to ask some questions, it's unfortunate that they gave away their power and our obligation as senators to engage in the work of advise and consent. This man is manifestly unfit. He never should have been confirmed in the first place. And the only difference between the hearings when he was up for confirmation and where we are now is my fears have been confirmed and worse. This is worse than many of us expected.
You know, it's interesting to me. I mean, that obviously, look, there were a lot of mistakes made by public health